The stranger you just scrolled past has a childhood you'll never know about, a fear they've never said out loud, and a whole private world running behind their eyes. Your brain deleted all of it in under a second. That's not a metaphor. It's closer to a literal description of what just happened inside your skull. Somewhere, without your permission, a person was quietly downgraded from a full human being to background object that moved. The philosopher Alfred Schutz called the people who pass through your day like this consociates versus everyone else, mere contemporaries, faceless, interchangeable, understood only as a category rather than a person. But the sharper science behind why this happens comes from an anthropologist named Robin Dunbar, who spent the 1990s asking a question nobody had rigorously measured before. Exactly how many people can one human brain actually hold as real, three-dimensional individuals, complete with names, histories, and inner lives at the same time? Dunbar studied primate brain size against typical group size across dozens of species, then extrapolated the pattern to humans. His answer, now famous, is roughly 150. Not 150 acquaintances, 150 people your brain can maintain a genuine, textured relationship with. People whose situation in life you could describe from memory, people you'd recognize instantly and know how to behave around. Beyond that number, Dunbar found, human social cognition doesn't scale. It doesn't get worse gradually. It hits a wall. Past your 150, other humans stop being individuals to your brain and start being categories. Coworker, barista, commuter, face in the crowd, not because you're cold or lazy, because the machinery in your skull was never built to do otherwise. Here's the number that makes this genuinely strange. There are more than 8 billion people alive right now. Your brain has room for 150 of them as real. That means, mathematically, more than 99.999998% of every human alive is currently filed in your head, under some version of not fully real to me, and yet every single one of those 8 billion has an inner life exactly as vivid, as detailed, and as convincing to them as yours is to you. The psychologist Nicholas Epley has spent years studying what he calls mind perception, our tendency to correctly or incorrectly assume there's someone home behind another person's eyes. His research found something uncomfortable. The less someone resembles us, the less we interact with them, the more our brain quietly reduces its estimate of how rich their inner world actually is. Strangers in controlled studies get consistently rated as having less capacity for complex emotion than people we know personally, even though there's obviously no actual difference. This isn't a flaw unique to unkind people. Brain imaging studies have found that a region called the medial prefrontal cortex, the part that activates when you think carefully about another person's mental state, lights up reliably when you think about someone close to you. For strangers glimpsed briefly in several studies, it barely activates at all. Neurologically, in that instant, they're processed less like a person and more like an object that happens to be shaped like one. You felt the sharp edge of this from the other side, too. Every time you've been the stranger. The customer someone served without really looking at you. The name a cashier forgot the second you left. In that moment, you were a fully three-dimensional person having a complete, complicated day, reduced on the other end to a temporary obstacle or task. So why doesn't this break down completely? If almost everyone is invisible to almost everyone else, how does anything resembling a functioning society happen at all? Because the 150 isn't fixed. It rotates. The stranger who serves your coffee every single morning for 3 years eventually crosses over. So does the coworker in the next cubicle, the neighbor whose dog you recognize before you recognize their face. Proximity and repetition are the only known way to earn a permanent seat in someone else's 150. Every meaningful relationship in your life, every single one, started as an anonymous shape moving through someone else's peripheral vision before it earned a name. Which means today, somewhere in your ordinary schedule, you almost certainly walked past someone who is, right now, at the exact center of an entire universe just as complicated and vivid as yours. Someone worried about a diagnosis, someone replaying an argument from last night, someone quietly proud of something no one around them noticed. You didn't do anything wrong by not seeing it. You literally couldn't. The hardware doesn't allow it. But knowing the limit exists changes something. It means every stranger who briefly registers as background isn't actually background. They're just outside the radius your brain happens to be able to render in full detail today. The universe behind their eyes is running at full resolution whether or not yours has the bandwidth to notice. Maybe that's not a design flaw to mourn. Maybe it's the only thing that makes it bearable to walk through a species 8 billion people deep, all of us equally real, all of us mostly invisible to each other, and somehow, every so often, still finding the 150th seat for someone new.